some winners and then we say, let's go. So come on, it's time to watch the show. We're talking hardball, Ken Griffey's grotesque.
Live. Welcome on in, everybody. It is Betting Weekly Hardball, a Wednesday edition, along with Doug Kezirian. I'm Adam the Bull, and we got a lot to get to today. Betting Weekly Hardball from the Betting Weekly Studios is part of Bet Rivers. If you're not using the Bet Rivers app, you are missing out. So get on it today for all the action. Plus, we have the newsletter at bettingweeklystudios.com for weekly betting tips and the entire newsletter to fill in the blanks for whatever we and the other shows don't get to hit on. But we hit on a lot yesterday, Doug. How you doing?
Doing well, and I know we're going to get into the games going on right now, but the FOMO, the betting, diehard in me is just has that FOMO, right?
Oh my God!
We talked about it yesterday. 9 straight unders for the Reds games, and here they are, a 2-1 game in the fifth. So I got to be honest, bud, I'm kicking myself sometimes, but that's just how we're wired as gamblers, right? Like that's just who we are. But it is kind of painful just seeing these low scores. A 1-0 game yesterday.
Right. Yeah, and you 1-0 game yesterday, and you had another good day. You hit on the Brewers. You hit on the Phillies minus the 2.5. You laid the 2.5 runs with the Phillies, and you hit on that.
You got there. 3.
Yeah,
3 was the margin.
The Rangers, but 2 out of 3.
Yeah, plus 175.
Yeah.
I wanted to back Corbin. Corbin pitched well, so there was other ways we could have done that. We could have bet the under for the game, under Yanks team total, although they did get 5 runs. And just maybe total earned runs allowed, things like that for Corbin. But that's okay. I mean, that's the nature of betting baseball. You just kind of have to, quote unquote, take what you perceive as value. It can come in the form of a favorite, like the Brewers, a slight favorite yesterday, or the Phillies against the lowly Rockies minus 2.5 runs. But either way, you got to just kind of, and you got to be comfortable with losses. And Corbin didn't pitch amazing, 305 innings, but that was the concept that I had, at least going in.
And it's still you're 4-1 the last 2 days, so you hit 80%. That's beyond killing it. So 4-1 the last 2 days. I hit my one pick yesterday with that Marlins Cubs over. I thought it would be a high scoring game for both teams. It was only the Cubs, but it doesn't matter. The over is the over. You mentioned the action going on this afternoon, and we'll keep you up to date as the afternoon goes along. The Guardians and Twins are finally playing a game that got suspended Monday night. They were supposed to finish that game and play a second game yesterday. Both of those got rained out. That game was 2-1 in going to the fourth. Now it's 4-2 Twins in the bottom of the sixth. So they'll play another full game after that. Bottom 5, you just mentioned it. The Pirates lead the Reds 2-1. That is actually that inning. Yeah, now they're in the bottom of the fifth. Pirates up now. Astros,
and that total was 8. So I'm tracking the streak there. 9 straight unders, and we have a 2-1 game in the fifth. The live total 6.5, but 8 was the closing number. So potentially 10 straight unders involving the Reds.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. Houston and Tampa Bay tied 2-2 in the top of the fourth. All the games right now are pretty low scoring. The Brewers and the Orioles are scoreless. That game in the top of the fourth. The Tigers lead the Cardinals 1-0. That game in the top of the fourth. The Cubs and the Marlins are tied 1-1 bottom 3, and the Mariners and White Sox about to get started. So it's always a lot of fun. Plenty of in-game betting to do if you want. Is there anything you're looking at besides that Reds under if the game's going on right now, Doc?
Yeah, well, I'm monitoring how it finishes. The 6.5 right now. Obviously, 3-3 game. If you take the unders, not going to win. So it's 2-1. Don't trust the offenses. Don't trust the bullpens. But the way things are going, it's hard to disagree. We've touched on the Twins, right? They've just been on absolute tear. 13-1 their last 4 games.
Yeah,
it was 2-2. They just took the lead 4-2. Man, it's hard not to want to get a piece of this Twin. So right now it says close, so something happening in that game. But after Cleveland tied at the top of the fourth, Twinkies responded with 2 in the bottom half of the fourth. So we're in the sixth. 4-2 Twins. I'm thinking under. Just how it's been unfolding. You mentioned that it's resuming a game from Monday, so the bullpen should be fine
Yep.
for both teams, for that matter. But I'm thinking through the lens of Minnesota. So that is how I'm seeing it. I want to see what Bet Rivers is going to post. That could be, in these situations when
Yeah.
it's off, like they just took it down. There could be a pitching change that they haven't figured out who's coming out yet. There
Yeah.
could be a review. That's usually what it is. So
The
we'll see after it's momentarily. That this happens in the
Yeah.
NBA too when there's a challenge in NFL as well. So these are things just to keep in mind when you see something like this closed right now.
Yeah.
It's because there's a pivotal situation that's being decided, and you can't just leave markets up at that point.
Yeah, I think it might be potentially a pitching change because the inning just ended. So the Twins are out in the bottom of the sixth. So the game's going to the seventh. The Twins did something interesting when this game resumed. They went to a starting pitcher in Joe Ryan, who's their best starting pitcher. I mean, he's great. And he was supposed to start one of these games. So they just put him in this game to start the fourth inning, give up a run in that inning. And, I don't know if maybe they don't expect him to go that long in this game. He's thrown 50 pitches in the 3 innings he's been in. I don't know. So maybe that's why it's closed right now, waiting to see if he comes back out for the top of the seventh.
Hey, I'm going to ask you a question because you
Yeah.
just triggered a question I've had a long time. And when I worked at ESPN, I used to ask dumb questions to people like Barry Melrose. I'd ask him if a sumo wrestler can play goalie. I'd ask all sorts of crazy things. Why, if a baseball pitcher has to throw in off days, why can't you use a starter in the bullpen like you just mentioned? Why can't that become a thing? Are they not throwing that hard? Game speed? Are they not doing certain things? If they're supposed to throw in the on the off
Right.
days, why can't they do that in a game to get one batter? Now, obviously, now you can't do that with the pitching minimums and things like that. But
Yeah.
why not just like Greg Maddox's off day in the peak Pedro, peak Roger Clemens,
Right.
peak DeGrom? Like, why can't you just bring him in and have him face like one or two batters, middle
I,
relief in a jam?
yeah. I mean, in theory, it could work, right? You'd think. They look at it as well. They're not throwing with the intensity that a pitch. They're nowadays, especially because they're so uptight about pitch counts and babying these pitchers, even though they get hurt more than ever. That I think a relief pitcher could warm up like 4 times in a game, but they don't count that towards his pitch count, right? And it's like,
Or throws to
well, though,
first for that matter.
exactly.
They
So
gun it. They gun it to first sometimes, right?
yeah, exactly. And even the warm up pitches for the inning, they don't count towards the pitch count, and so the numbers are quite arbitrary. But yeah, in the bullpen, you're not going to throw with quite the intensity that you're throwing on the mound, and the adrenaline's not going the same way. But it does make some sense that you could, especially a veteran pitcher. Why can't his in week bullpen be on the mound during a game in a big spot
Like
with 3 outs?
back in the day, like Wakefield, right? Like a guy
Oh
who's
yeah,
not throwing gas, right?
that's
Who's
true.
just you could just use him for one guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to say this about prior to Shohei Ohtani. Like some of these
Right.
guys that get drafted in the top 10 or they also hit cleanup in
Yeah.
college in the SEC. And I know it's the metal bats and whatnot. But I just would always say there has to be somebody who's capable of being a good hitter who's drafted as a pitcher, right?
Oh yeah.
When the
Absolutely.
Dodgers, being an LA guy, the Dodgers drafted Darren Dreifert out of Wichita. A-Rod went one. Dodgers got Dreifert, and he was just raking. I was like, why can't he just work on? I mean, so my point is, finally, Ohtani proved me right.
Right.
But I also think Ohtani can't be the only guy in the world who can do it,
No,
right?
no chance. Right.
Now
Maybe.
he's maybe the only guy who's like excellent at both,
Yeah. Sure.
but there has to be some sort of stud pitcher who could be a utility guy, at least a hitter off the bench, a good bat if he worked on it as much as he worked on hitting and just dedicated himself to be a big leaguer in
Yeah.
both aspects.
Absolutely. It's hard to believe that somebody could be as good as Ohtani at both, but to just do it at maybe even a below average or league average level, I think it's possible. I know Jack Caglione, who was a top 10 pick by the Royals last year, who's was so good at Double A, got promoted to Triple A. Now he's hitting, but he was a pitcher too. And there's a lot of guys. Well, Michael Lorenzen, who we talked about last year, he's been used as a hitter in the past by when
Right.
he was with Cincinnati. CC Sabathia was a really good hitter. There have been a lot of pitchers. Now, how good would they have been if they, had been a utility player also? I don't know. But over the years, there have been a lot
Yeah, we
of good
saw
pitching
Greinke.
hitters.
We saw Greinke a couple times,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
I know back in the day, Tommy Lasorda would use Fernando Valenzuela,
Oh, yeah. He was a
and
really good
maybe
hitter.
maybe deep extra innings. He wouldn't be the first guy off the bench, but
Yeah.
yeah, if you're gonna need a guy and you're gonna make a pitching change, and Fernando's not playing that day or pitching that day, they'd rather have him hit and not maybe 2 outs in the 7th.
Yeah.
You're going to put a new bullpen guy in the top half of the so you'll just use Fernando as a pitch hitter instead of a
Yeah.
regular pinch hitter in case he can get on, and then you bring out the windbreaker, and that's always another entertaining thing for the fans.
Madison Bumgarner was a good hitter. The Cubs had a pitcher in
Yeah.
the late 70s, early 80s named Rick Russell. That's pretty obscure
Well,
reference, but
big guy. I know him.
he was a good
Number
hitter too.
52, maybe?
I don't remember that, but that could be a good. I don't remember his number, but good pull if you're
Potentially good pull.
correct on that. By the way, that Reds Pirates game is still 2-1 top of the 6th. I see it at Bet Rivers now. We have the over-under. Well, that just closed. They just closed it again there. The Guardians Twins now minus 2,500 to win. The run total is closed at the moment.
So they put up 2 a second ago. So that
Yeah.
means obviously there's a push potential.
Yeah.
But the over-under was 7.5, right?
Yeah.
So the push potential is tough because Twins are the home team, and they're going to have just 2 more ups in theory, right? And the Guardians would have 3, including the one that's going on. I think there was already a runner on, or excuse me, already one out.
Yeah.
But there was I was sort of torn on that number.
Right.
7.5 under -140. I was leaning that way, but nothing firm.
Yeah. Now 2 outs in the top of the 7th. Joe Ryan's still in the game. 2 outs and 2 strikes to the catcher. All right, let's talk about some other games that are going to be going on later today, Doug. Before
Rick
we do
Russell,
that,
jersey number 48, by the way. So
okay.
the irony of the 52-48, the math guy in me of the 100, I guess. I don't know.
Go.
Maybe there was a connection there. Who knows?
I mean, even though you got it wrong, it's still impressive that you were that close to remember. I didn't even think most people would remember Rick Russell unless you were a Cubs fan anyway. So head to the house specials page on the Bet Rivers app, by the way. Check out the full slate of daily MLB house specials, including either team to hit a home run in the first inning of the Dodgers Diamondbacks game at plus 200. If you had to lean on that one, Diamondbacks Dodgers game, if you had to bet it, would you bet it? I mean, like the plus 200 on the home run there. I guess if you have to bet it, you'd have to bet it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I could do it. I just the top of the lineup though. I just think with the pitching matchup, May will walk some guys before giving in.
Mm-hmm.
And even the Dodgers bats finally waking up. I'm still uneasy trying to take that against Corbin Burns. So I probably wouldn't, join in. But you got some big bats there and some enticing options for sure. And the Dodgers breaking through last night may have unlocked sort of the Jenga of the hitting slump. So maybe that does pay dividends.
With the Twins Guardians game now going to the bottom of the 7th, the Twins are 6 outs away from making it 15 of their last 16. I'm sorry, 14 of their last 15 if they win. With a second game tonight, Gavin Williams and Chris Paddock, the pitchers, these guys are on like a full week rest at this point because they were supposed to pitch a couple days ago. What are you thinking? Are you waiting for this game to end to see the bullpen usage at all, or
a little bit? I just want to make sure no funny business, right? It is baseball still, so you can be one pitch away from locking it up in a snoozer, so to speak, of the 9th inning. But then all of a sudden, the Guardians start putting guys on. I would take the Twins. I think they're so hot right now. I do think the offense was sort of sluggish, but if the fact that this rain delay in the day, it's getting back on track. So I'm actually kind of back in on the Twins. As soon as I thought I was out, I was back in.
Yeah. And minus 120 is a pretty good price for a team as hot as they are at home.
Yeah. And look, the Guardians are a good club. We know that.
Yeah.
And Chris Paddock's not a guy you want to go in the foxhole with on most days, but he's done everything you've asked lately. He's been reliable, and the bats are hot. So if you remove that 9-run debut against the White Sox in 3 1/3 innings, I mean, you're looking at a 2.5 ERA kind of thing for Paddock. in 8 starts. So,
Yeah.
yes, not a household name, probably not on the top of the Cy Young betting board, but when things are hot, I think you ride it. And Paddocks, we talked a lot at great length. I don't want to, totally repeat myself, but yesterday we talked at great length about just, sometimes things can happen when you get to a new club, you have the right pitching coach, things change. You befriend another pitcher in the rotation who can change your grip on a certain pitch.
Right.
There's always so much pitching wisdom you can glean that I would want to lean into this with Paddock and this red hot Twins team.
Let's talk now about the Rangers and Yankees 7 o'clock game tonight. Jacob DeGrom on the hill for the Rangers. He's obviously over the years has missed a ton of time due to injury, but when he's been healthy, he's consistently been one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's 4-1 with a 2.29 ERA. Ryan Yarbrough is making the start for the Yankees. It's he's coming out of the pen. Who knows how long he'll pitch? Obviously, the Yankees are playing well. They won yesterday. They're 16-9 at home. And the Rangers haven't been great on the road, but it's hard to bet against Jacob DeGrom, even against the Yankees. What are you leaning towards in that game?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to take a stab against the Yanks yesterday. Regretted it,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Not that it was a horrendous bet; it was plus 175. It happens, but Degrom pitched great in the last game, but it wasn't vintage Degrom. He sort of changed how I think Jeff Passan wrote something about it last week. 8 inning shutout ball against Houston. I typically don't like betting on a guy who just throws like his highest pitch count and a sort of a high leverage game, if you will. 8 innings shutout ball. Usually, it's a time to bet against. Like anytime a guy throws like 115 pitch, a no hitter and stuff, you always bet against, right? In this case, it was 96 pitches. It's Degrom. I would lean to betting against him, but there's so much value betting against the Yankees nowadays. I mean, their numbers are
Yep.
inflated. But I don't think here at minus a buck 17, DeGrom back in New York. I just it's a weird game because the Yanks are starting Yarbrough and he's not an amazing pitcher and it's
Yeah.
obviously going to be a short outing. So I'd stay away. If it were anyone but DeGrom with that pitching, stat or whatever the stat line in the previous game, I'd go against him, but it's DeGrom. And we've seen him be able to do it. And I hope he's healthy and I hope he just responds and picks up right where he left off his last outing, but I'm going to pass. But
Yeah.
the Yankees, this pitching for today does not look like it's going to
No.
baffle pitchers like yesterday or baffle batters like yesterday.
Shane Smith of the White Sox, who has been baffling batters, shockingly, as a Rule 5 pick. Not today. Gives up a 3-run homer to Julio Rodriguez before there's even an out recorded in the top of the first. So 3-0 Mariners in that game. This Royals Giants series. Let's get to that game, Doug, because it's been an interesting series. Two teams that have played well this year. The Royals off to a bad start, but played much better lately. The Giants are having a tremendous season, trying to get to 30-20. Logan Webb obviously has been fantastic. Daniel Lynch is going to make the start for the Royals. He's been pitching out of the bullpen. This is a bullpen game, so I think the whole game is going to be a bullpen game. Obviously, they've lost their two best starters, Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo, to the injured list. But Daniel Lynch, who was a starter in the past, so you think, well, maybe he can pitch longer. His last 4 appearances, he hasn't even pitched a full inning. So I wouldn't expect him to go very long in this one. So big advantage Giants in terms of the pitching.
I think so. And, we've talked about betting trends and things like this. By the way, an afternoon game. So it's going to start, in a little bit
Yep,
for, again,
3:45
on West
Eastern.
Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to lay it with the run line. I love Logan Webb at home. I mean, he's got an ERA about 0.65 at home this year.
Hmm.
Previous like 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, home ERA is like 2 runs full better. And it just makes you wonder what the heck is going on. Does he get his favorite restaurant on the way to the stadium? Things like that. There's just a lot to like with Logan Webb. He's, there was one year he did okay in the Cy Young voting and he wasn't that great on the road. So he's just a completely different pitcher at home. And it's not just this season or last season. It's like last 5 years, something ridiculous like that. So I'm going to roll with it. Hope the Giants bats can get me home with the run line. But the really thing I'm only considering, if I wasn't going to do that, I would actually do the first 5, lay a half. So the 3-way line on the first 5. So you're essentially doing the run line on the first 5 with Logan Webb. And you know what? Let's do that. I'll do that for a half unit official play. Giants minus 137 on the 3-way first 5. I'd rather lay a half. Just hope the bats wake up a little bit on the early side with this early first pitch. But I think that's the way to go.
To your point, to back up what you were saying about Logan Webb, if you look at his career, home road splits, and by the way, coming into today, this is wild. He's pitched 459 and 2/3 innings at home and 459 innings even on the road. What are the odds of that? His
Very
career,
high.
career ERA at home is 2.64. I mean, that's a lock Hall of Famer at 2.64 ERA. Career ERA on the road for Logan Webb, 4.06. Not terrible, but far from a Hall of Famer. And what's interesting is the strikeouts are about the same. He's actually only has 5 more strikeouts in his career at home than on the road. But he's given up double the homers. He's given up way more walks. I mean, the numbers are just crazy in terms of the career numbers.
And it's something I leaned into each of the last couple seasons. And I wish I did earlier this season, but it just seems too good to be true. Now, if you can tell me a reason why the odds are that way, then I'm all ears. Sometimes there is a reason, and I'm blanking on the pitcher. I'm just Googling. So it was Jose Fernandez. I kept wanting to say a different last name. So Jose Fernandez, right? So I was working at ESPN doing baseball tonight.
Right.
And Jose Fernandez was like an ERA under 1 at home. And on the road, he was like 3.5.
Yeah.
And so I remember asking Eduardo Perez, who was actually connected to the Marlins, things like that. And I would ask him, what's the deal here, dude? And he goes, it's funny you mentioned that. I was back in Miami and I was talking to him. He was such a fiery pitcher. And he would be demonstrative. And it wasn't in a show trying to like taunt or anything like that. He channeled that fire when he pitched. But when he was on the road, he was so respectful of the other team's dugout and the fans that he actually toned it down a little bit, and that made him less effective as a pitcher. Right? So he wouldn't be able to channel the fire and paint the corners with or throw with the same velocity or whatever it took and whatever the result was. So because he was, I don't know, the pitching version of minding his P's and Q's, he was not as effective as a pitcher. So that's a tangible reason, and that made perfect sense because there was certainly a stark contrast. Now, I don't think that applies to Logan Webb, but I do think I'm open to any sort of interpretation or information that can guide me, and then I can lean into that because the math models and things like that, the modelers who shape the market don't take into account certain things, right? So when Belichick, I wrote an article back in the day when Belichick or when Brady retired or whatever it was, and that this duo was the best combination ever against the spread. And modelers were saying like, yeah, Belichick did stuff that we couldn't model. Like he would game plan, think outside the box, do stuff, and we could not model it. So there are things that are still, even though there's great trends and stuff, it's still not completely factored into the market in an effective way or appropriately enough. So there are ways to take advantage, like maybe this Reds team, right? Maybe they're getting the right pitching. Maybe their offense is just putrid, which I guess we kind of know already. But certain things like that, road splits and stuff like that, there are reasons behind it. You just got to dig deep and find them.
And by the way, that game is now going to the 7th inning. Still 2-1. Speaking of the Reds, Pirates, Reds.
Going under. Yesterday 1-0. Today 2-1. What is going on?
It is wild. And the Logan Webb, I mean, obviously, San Francisco's a good pitcher's park generally, but it can't just be that. There's definitely got to be more to it than that. But
yeah, I mean, to your point, if it was a Rockies pitcher pitched well on the road, fine. Like that's pretty obvious. Right. But not this case.
No, definitely not. All right, let's go to the next game here. The Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. I feel like they've played each other a million times of late. The Dodgers, the pitching matchup for tonight's game, of course, I'm off the page. Pitching matchup for tonight's game is Corbin Burnes and Dustin May. Obviously, Corbin Burnes, one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he has not given up more than 1 earned run in 4 consecutive starts. And so he's been great. He got a little bit of a shaky start to start season, at least for him. But his last 4 starts, he's gone 24 and a third. He's given up 2 earned runs, just 14 hits. The walks a little high. Game against the Mets, he had 5 walks, so 13 walks, but 26 strikeouts. So the walks not great, but he hasn't given up many runs or hits in the last 4 games. That includes a start against the Dodgers on May the 10th.
So I mentioned May, sort of a guy who's not going to give in. He's been touched up a little bit. I love the guy. I'm so psyched that he's back and healthy and pitching. I don't want to go to war with lay that kind of juice with May.
Yeah.
Because I think that Arizona, breaking news, has the better pitcher here. But I also am very curious about the Dodgers lineup. Like I said, big comeback in the 9th last night. Now they won it on a sac fly, but they got their offense going. And they had to walk pitch around Ohtani. And I just think it was like a vintage Dodgers comeback. And I'm very curious how they respond today against a really good pitcher. So I don't want to lay 137 with the worst pitcher of the 2 options, but I am monitoring things. I think the offense could be breaking out. It's just maybe the wrong pitcher to be facing in that type of situation. So it's not like they just knocked the cover off the ball and scored 12 runs. So I'm a little uneasy leaning into this pitcher, situation with Burns being so good. And you mentioned the run he's been on.
Yeah.
And that included 7 shutout innings against the Dodgers 11 days ago. And yes, at home versus on the road, but still, and we're seeing the humanization of this Dodgers lineup, right? Coming into the season, my God, are they going to break the record for the most wins ever? It's like, not so fast. Bill Platsky, legendary writer for the LA Times, pretty dumb column that talked about the Dodgers going 162-0. Like, I don't even know how allowed to be printed. They started out, I think, like 6-0.
Oh my God.
But it wasn't even like tongue in cheek, really. It was just talking about the depth. And I was like, anyways. So
that's crazy.
I just don't want to lay the buck 39 in this situation.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the Diamondbacks in this one. I like again, I know the walks have been a little high, but I like the way Burns has been pitching. And I think a guy like that gets up to play the best teams. And so I think he's going to be on his P's and Q's this week or tonight. By the way, a correction in that Pirate Red game. I said it was end of the 6th, but there was a challenge. The Pirates won the challenge. So they do have in the bottom of the 6th runners at the corners, 2 out with O'Neill Cruz at the plate. And Reds made a pitching change to Taylor Rogers. So we'll see if they could screw up that under here, but it's the 6th inning, not over yet. All right, let's get to our favorite team.
That live totals Twins is now 6.5. It's gone from 7.5 to 6.5. So we could have picked off an insurance run on the under, but now it's 6.5 with potentially 9 outs to go. So I would definitely lay off. But that is and that's the thing. You can't. So if I was leaning under 7.5, and I missed it, and it's 6.5 now, you shouldn't just chase 6.5 because you because you were on the under. There's a big difference between these 2 numbers, right? And even with less to go, and that's why it's 6.5 now. But if you don't chase whenever possible, don't chase. But I think that's an example of sometimes people might just give in.
Yeah, the Rays have extended their lead on the Astros, 5-2 in that one. The Rays have hit 3 home runs in that game to go up 5-2 on Houston. Hunter Brown, who's been fantastic, having a rough start. And the Orioles have scored against the Brewers, 1-0 there. So we'll keep an eye on all these games.
Orioles could be out of the funk. Now, I did think about betting, but just myself before the show, the Brewers. Yeah. I typically don't bet on sweeps. So if a team, even maybe the Rockies, I would consider, of course. Yeah. But I've been I got away with it too. It's like, let's walk away from the blackjack table as well. I rode the Brewers each of the last 2 games. I typically don't do it unless it's an overwhelmingly great matchup, and obviously teams do sweep, but usually there's a team that gets relaxed a little bit and the other team's looking to avoid the sweep. But this Baltimore team's been clearly shaky. They lost 8 straight, so sweeps are not exactly foreign in their world either.
Folks, I want to talk to you about some other great things we're doing at Bet Rivers. Tear into the action with Bet Rivers prop packs. Place the same game parlay of at least $10 on any MLB game to receive a prop pack, which can win you boosts and bonus credits If the target score in your prop pack card hits during the game, you win the prize indicated on the card. Head to the Bet Rivers app now to tear into the action. There you go. Check out the Bet Rivers app. Next game on the docket. We love talking about the Rockies. You laid 2.5 runs with them yesterday. Laid 2.5 runs with the Phillies against them yesterday, and you hit. They won 7-4. The Rockies now a mind-boggling 8-40. They've lost 15 of 17, 13 of their 15 losses during the stretch, as you put here, Doug, by 2 or more runs. So you're going to continue to beat up on the Rockies and bully them, are you not?
Yeah, I mean, I know it gets a little monotonous, but I really think any sort of betting show should be talking about this team. And I really
Absolutely.
almost lead every show because the betters that we all are, we sit there and scrutinize a 10 cents value here and other stuff, but it's not like it's guaranteed, but we kind of have a free bingo square every day. And if this is going to be an all-time historically bad team, there should be ways to make money off this Rocky squad. And I certainly am doing it, right? Give out 2, 3 picks a day, and one of them is usually fading the Rockies. And they've actually done well on the weekends. So we haven't, been snake bitten at all. But it's hard not to get involved when a team really can lose so many different ways. Like Monday, they lost because of their awful bullpen, right? Kyle Freeland pitched well, had a lead, 3-1, big dog. Nope, that underdog ticket's in the trash because of the bullpen. And then the offense is fairly inept. And they even brought up a guy from AAA last week. He lost. The morale has to be horrendous. And so Taiwan Walker, not exactly a lights out pitcher, but in this situation, I'm fine. I
Oh, yeah.
really am. And then you can also isolate it if you want. You can go team total over for the Phils because that's what they are. And I mentioned the guy they called up, Carson Palmquist. That's who they're going with. He's got a sort of a sidearm delivery.
Got
He made his
smoked.
debut last week.
Yeah.
And so it's tough sledding right now at Coors, and I'm just going to try to make money off it if I can. So
That's right.
in this matchup with the Phillies yesterday, you mentioned I laid 2.5 runs.
Yeah.
Not in a rush to do that very often. I would lay the 1.5 minus 159. I think the Philly lineup's that special, so I will do that. I again, you can still do this. You can do the same concept with the first 5 run line, which is just a 3-way betting line, i.e., minus a half. And so, but I'm going to do it with the Phillies because the bullpen's so bad for Colorado. I'd rather just take as many cracks up against this pitching staff as possible. So I'll do minus 1.5, minus 159, or what I prefer is using a Phillies and Giants parlay. So a Phillies and Giants parlay, you go minus 220 as one leg with the fighting Phils. And then I'm all in on Logan Webb. We talked about it with the Giants.
Yeah.
So this is not a run line or a first 5 or anything. It's just a way to use the money line and bank on them. But parlays, they are what they are. But let me put it this way. This money line is a discount if Logan Webb gets out of the top of the first without giving up a run, because then it's just going to skew to a certain way. So yeah, parlays aren't great, but those lines move so much during the game. So I would do Giants minus 200 and minus 220, and I'll throw it into the Bet Rivers app and put together. They'll do it for you. But I think for a parlay there, you're looking at plus 115. It's hard to argue there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Or plus 118 on our screen. There we go.
By the way, Taiwan Walker has been in and out of the rotation. Overall with the Phillies, he hasn't been very good, but he's pitched pretty well this year. He has a 2.62 ERA this season in 34 innings, a lot of it out of the pen. But he did make a start. His first appearance this year was on April 3rd against the Colorado Rockies. And in that game, he went 6 innings, allowed just 4 base runners, no runs, struck out 4. So he pitched well against the Rockies, as most people have. So Taiwan Walker, like you said, he's not great, and that's why you don't have to lay as much. But against this Rockies lineup, even an average, below average pitcher looks acceptable.
And we saw a couple of weeks ago, I mean, the defense is even bad, right? They had some little league performance, some little league home runs against the Padres, where the Padres just put up like a monster number right away and just never let up. It was 19-0 at one point. At some point, I shouldn't say at some point, Colorado's going to be a respectable team and win some games. I'm not so sure. I really not. Who's going to let up? And then their division's so stacked, and they're going to play a lot. Those teams, what, 19 times each?
Right.
I feel really bad for this team.
Oof. I feel bad for the fans. So it's
That too.
got to be painful to watch. Daryl says, like the Giants, first 5, Red Sox first 5, and Twins first 5 on the money line. He says he likes the under with the Dodgers game, but the over is the consensus. So there you go. What do you think of those there, Doug? From
So
Daryl?
obviously I'm involved with the Giants and the Twins. Yeah, I'll back Paddock in the first 5. I just with the way if you're betting on a hot team like that and the bullpen's been good, things like that, I would just make it 9 innings. But I have no
Right.
problem with the first 5. You just remember you run the risk of pushing in the first 5 bet.
Yeah.
And the Red Sox. Now it was a great spot to bet on Boston the other night, but I like Crochet. First 5 I can certainly get behind, but this Mets team is no slouch, right? Like they're not. Again, this is a team trying to avoid the sweep, so I would pass on the Red Sox for the sweep factor, but I do like Garrett Crochet. That was a great get by Boston from the White
Okay.
Sox.
By the way, Daryl asks any opinions on the under in the WNBA games tonight. Speaking of which, betting weekly fast break coming your way in about 25 minutes. And I know you do a lot of WNBA. You had your first L in
I
WNBA. You got a
know,
win too, but couldn't stay
but we had a
perfect forever,
guy
unfortunately.
we had someone on our chat who mentioned Brianna Jones over 6.5 rebounds, and I
Yeah,
gave that a deeper dive, and it was a good bet. I gave that away as my free play of the day in my Discord channel and hit it again. That was 13 rebounds, doubled her rebounding prop.
nice.
So that's 4 straight winners for the play of the day in the Discord. But you're right, not officially on here because I didn't get the cheat code. I didn't get the answer sheet from a guy in our comments section. So appreciate that shout
Yeah,
out. And I'm blanking on your name, so I apologize. I don't have an. I mean, I'm not going to blanket unders all. I have some opinions. We'll talk about the games. Our guest Wes Reynolds also solid in the W, and
yeah.
I'm going to pick his brain on some of these games. Paige Becker's back at it, looking for her first win, but she's a double-digit dog. I do lean probably under in that game, so I'll throw a little breadcrumb there. But we'll break all those games down coming up top of the hour over on Betting Weekly Fast Break.
All right, folks. Just to go through the scoreboard once again, and maybe quickly mention the games that we didn't mention. Twins in that lead 4-2 in the bottom of the 8th in that first game of what's essentially a doubleheader with the Guardians. Twins have 1 on and nobody out in the bottom of the 8th. Looking for the Reds to be under again, looking pretty good right now. Top of the 7th, 2-1 Pirates. The Reds have a runner on first and 2 outs in the top of the 7th. The Rays lead the Astros 5-2. That game in the top half of the 6th inning. The Tigers lead the Cardinals 2-0, top of the 6th. Tigers threatening for more, 2 on, 2 out in that inning. The Cubs and Marlins, a surprisingly low-scoring game, although that game was low-scoring last night until the 6th inning. That game's 1-1 in the bottom of the 5th in Miami. The Orioles lead the Brewers 1-0 in the bottom of the 5th in Milwaukee, and the Mariners lead the White Sox 3-0 in the top of the 2nd. Royals and Giants in about an hour. We mentioned the Red Sox, the Mets and the Red Sox briefly. We didn't mention the Braves and the Nats. I like the Braves tonight. One pick from me here. I like the Braves minus 157 against the Nationals. AJ Smith-Shawver has been fantastic. I feel like with all the names on the Braves, he kind of is under the radar. And I like them. I was actually surprised they were. I know they haven't been great, but I was surprised they weren't a bigger favorite because Trevor Williams has been terrible. So I kind of like the Braves tonight. And I think that's all the games we mentioned. We didn't mention San Diego and Toronto tonight. You got Randy Vasquez and Kevin Gossman, and the Angels and the A's are playing as well. Doug, let's recap your picks. Phillies and Giants parlay plus 118. That one looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, you like? I mean, plus money for $2 favorites.
Yeah.
Look, it's baseball. I get it.
Yeah.
And it's funny. There was various things can go viral and catch anyone's attention. But when the Dallas Mavericks won the NBA draft lottery with 1.7% chance, I believe it was,
Yeah.
and people on Twitter were like, clearly a lot of NBA fans have never played poker, right?
Right.
When you know the math and okay, he's got one card and I got
Yeah.
every which. And the one card sometimes comes up 1.7% of the time because the math
That's
is the
right.
math. So obviously baseball is math and it's not as clean as a deck of cards in terms of the remaining coming. That's just finite math.
Right.
There is a chance. I mean, the favorites don't win every game. And I tell everyone March Madness, the 5-12 seeds, right? The money line,
Yep.
the 4-leg money line parlay of all 5 seeds is like plus 250. So you just don't know which 12 seed's going to win, right? It's just
Right.
so in this case, it's plus money, which is nice, but nothing's guaranteed, of course. But I like my chances with each of these guys.
And then you also playing the Giants first 5 minus
Minus a half.
137.
So
Minus a half
yeah,
first 5
it's on the
minus
three-way
130.
line, right? They
Yeah.
got to have a lead. If they're tied, it's a losing bet. So it's the run line for the first 5 is this, that's how we call it. So it's the run line minus
Yeah.
137 when we were talking about it earlier in the show. And it's all about Logan Webb. His splits at home have been excellent, not just this year, whereas ERA, I believe his home ERA is 0.65. And then also his splits have been sort of really, really impressive home versus road. So why not lean into it? There certainly is something here.
By the way, if you decided to at late, you advised folks that once that Guardians Twins game went to 6.5, you said don't chase it. So hopefully nobody did because the Twins are threatening. It's not over yet, but in the bottom of the 8th, the Twins it's a 4-2 game, but they have second and third, 1 out in the bottom of the 8th, and they just scored.
It's like a run got home.
Yep,
Yeah.
they just scored. So it's now 5-2. So if you chased, and you might be out of luck even at 7.5 because they do have a runner
Right.
on third with 1 out. But anyway, that's baseball, right? It always is.
Yeah, it's a
Thanks.
hot team too. And be careful
That's
in
right.
fading offense, of any sorts with a hot team like this.
No doubt about it. Thanks to Z and Alex for producing. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Betting Weekly Hardball will be back on tomorrow at 2 p.m. And Betting Weekly Fast Break is coming up next in 18 minutes. Doug, I'll talk to you next time. We'll see you later.
Thanks, bud. Looking forward to it.
See you, everybody.